Depth psychology, a discipline exploring the depths of the human spirit and the latent components of our psyche, was pioneered by Carl Gustav Jung. His ideas offer a window into the self, or real self, a topic that especially speaks to us as we enter our 40s, a time of life sometimes defined by introspection and a search for greater significance. Jung, who was born in Switzerland in 1875, became early fascinated by the nature of the human psyche. Early employment at the Bergholzli Psychiatric Hospital in Zurich gave him direct understanding of mental illnesses. But his path toward creating his own theories really started with his cooperation and later break with Sigmund Freud. Though first a disciple of Freud, he soon believed that his method was unduly focused on the sexual elements of human growth. From his belief that human psychological development is a lifetime process that does not cease in early adulthood but continues to change in later decades, Jung's idea of individuation, which addresses the process of merging many aspects of the personality, emerged. Beyond social masks and forced roles, individuation is a spiritual and personal process of being who one really is, not only a road toward a full self. For Jung, this process entails an awareness and integration of the shadow, those facets of ourselves we reject or know nothing about. Many people start to face these secret aspects of their lives more seriously by the 40s, usually because life forces them into obstacles that cannot be solved with the same tools from their early years. This makes the midlife crisis, far from a cliché, a potential for personal development and change rather evident. Jung also underlined the significance of dreams and symbolic pictures as ways of communication for our psyche. By means of dream interpretation and strategies like as-active imagination, he suggested that we may interact with more profound aspects of ourselves, therefore enabling the individuation process. In midlife, when the need for authenticity takes front stage, this method can be especially illuminating and rewarding. Jung also developed the idea of archetypes, natural psychological patterns shown in dreams, fantasies, and stories. Among others, these archetypes capture the several roles and energies that run in our life: the hero, the old sage, the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine sides of our psyche, and the persona, the social mask. Understanding the changes and difficulties we encounter as we enter the second half of our lives depends on first realizing and then working with these archetypes. The process of individuation also entwines with the search for a more profound existence. Jung thought that the development of a closer interaction with the inner world was as important as adaptation to the outside world in determining psychological health. In this sense, the decades after the 40s might be considered as an invitation to explore and reconcile with oneself at a deeper level, a path that is not just healing, but also rather spiritual. All things considered, Carl Jung's writings provide us with means to negotiate midlife from a standpoint that honors the possibility of development and rejuvenation for individuals 40 years of age and beyond. His concepts on individuation imply that this time might be one of the most productive and freeing of our life, a chance to live with fullness and purpose and match our real self. This method opens doors to the wisdom only experience and self-examination can bring, in addition to a path toward the integration of the shadows and brightness of our life. Within the intriguing field of Carl Jung's psychology, the process of individuation takes front stage as the road to personal fulfillment and the realization of the actual self. Those negotiating midlife, a time usually marked by introspection and personal change, should particularly find relevance in this idea. Individuation is the overall psychological development of a person wherein the several components of the personality are united into one. Every element, from the most conscious to those buried in the unconscious, is investigated and illuminated on this road towards self-acknowledge and self-realization. Jung claims that this process is not only necessary for psychological well-being, but also a must for humans to reach a full and significant life. Individuation really helps people to release themselves from false identifications and other pressures that restrict their actual nature. On this road, one starts to live more truthfully, matching choices and behavior with what is really oneself, outside social or family standards. For middle-aged people, this process may show up as an awakening whereby inquiries about the meaning of life and purpose grow more relentless. Many people go through what is sometimes known as a midlife crisis at this period. This is only a sign of the natural desire toward individuation. Significant adjustments, including professional changes, relationship renewals, or the adoption of new lifestyles more truly reflecting the inner needs and wants, might result from this drive. The process also entails facing and reconciling with what Jung termed the shadow, that part of us that we have chosen to suppress or hide for one reason or another. The shadow is a storehouse of untapped potential and positive traits we have not been able or ready to communicate, not only the negative aspect of our personality. Greater integrity and authenticity are possible by realizing and embracing these suppressed elements. Apart from the shadow, individuation also entails a relationship with archetypes, universal systems of the collective unconscious influencing our actions and impressions. Among these are figures like the self, which stands for the entirety, the anima, the feminine aspect in man, the animus, the male aspect in women, and so forth. Psychologically, engaging with and knowing these archetypes helps one to better understand oneself and guide their life towards wholeness. According to Jung, individuation is an ongoing process that develops across life. It has no clear destination or ending point, but many people find most driven to start this road in middle age, since it is when the accumulation of events and understanding of mortality becomes more concrete. Individuation is also quite freeing. It lets people expose their actual self by removing the masks they have donned for years. By doing this, individuals not only enhance their own life, but also their interactions with others, therefore enabling more real and profound interaction. Individuation is ultimately an act of bravery. It calls for the bravery to look inside oneself, face the uncertainty, and implement frequently difficult or demanding adjustments. For people in midlife, however, this process presents a unique chance to rejuvenate their life and live with authenticity and richness maybe never known before. Though personal and particular to every person, this road is universal in its importance and transformational power. Therefore, as we negotiate the complexity of life, Jung's direction and his theory of individuation can be a lighthouse of hope and a roadmap towards self-discovery and personal fulfillment in the latter and maybe richest years of our life. Carl Jung offered a novel and profoundly relevant viewpoint on personal awakening that frequently occurs around the age of 40, when he investigated the recesses of the human soul and the process of individuation. Usually characterized by great introspection, this period of life marks a real turning point for each person. This is the period when people start to wonder about the road they have been on thus, and investigate fresh opportunities that really speak to their inner self. Most people at 40 have lived enough life to gather a plethora of rich and varied experiences. They have known success and failure, joy and grief, and have created close relationships while separating from others. Many find themselves in a perfect position to consider what really important at this stage, with the insight only years can provide. This is rich ground for what Jung called individuation, that is, the process by which the person feels compelled to review their life and realign their path. Though from a Jungian standpoint this crisis could more fairly be seen as a midlife review, the term midlife crisis has often been misinterpreted and associated with negative connotations. This is a time to reset and focus attention toward what can still be, not necessarily to regret what may have been. It's an encouragement to live more completely and to welcome changes that might bring more happiness and contentment. Turning 40 marks a change in priorities for many. Monetary success and status, which earlier seemed to be of great importance, may start to lose appeal and allow place for a yearning for closer connection, both with others and oneself. The questions become more important at this point in life. Am I living the life I want? Do my relationships represent my actual values? With what impression do I wish to be remembered? These questions reflect Jung's search for individuation, a call to relate with our actual direction and basic values. Moreover, this phase of life sometimes finds people looking for more authenticity in their behavior and utterances. They might find themselves reinventing their identity outside the roles they have performed till now. such that of parents, husbands, or professionals, or picking up new interests and investigating new vocations. This is a bravery, a readiness to destroy the image they created for the outside world and reconstruct oneself in a more authentic shape. Change usually entails entering the unknown, hence this process of transformation is not without difficulties. It can cause uncertainty and anxiety. Still, it presents a remarkable chance for expansion. Old scars can be found and healed by reflection and occasionally by therapy or spiritual counseling, therefore enabling a fresh strength to show. Beyond forced expectations, this is the core of individuation, a road toward being the person one is supposed to be. Practically, individuating in midlife could entail learning to say no to demands that do not align with our most basic values and yes to those chances that offer real satisfaction. Learning to live with others rather than for others acknowledges our individuality and significantly helps the globe. Individuation is not a selfish process, Jung underlined. Rather, it is an act of balance whereby one becomes more entire and therefore more qualified to be a loving and constructive participant in the life of others. It is discovering a road that is really ours, not one set by our early life adaptations or society. Inspired by Jung's views, we might regard this stage not as the beginning of the end, but as the beginning of what might be the richest and most gratifying part of our life as we travel beyond 40. Here, the wisdom we have gathered becomes a lighthouse, guiding our road to more authenticity. Every stride on this road indicates a deliberate decision toward achieving our actual potential. In many respects, life actually starts at 40. One of the giants of 20th century psychology theory, Carl Jung, guided us across the human mind where ideas, including archetypes, and the collective unconscious play crucial roles. These components are instruments that, when properly understood and used, can offer great insights and promote personal development, especially as we approach and beyond middle age. Not only bits of a clinical puzzle, Jung said that regardless of our differences, archetypes are basic pictures or patterns of behavior we all share. Our culture or upbringing are ingrained in what he termed the collective unconscious, a sort of storehouse of human experiences and memories. Every archetype symbolizes a basic aspect of human experience. Among them are immediately identifiable characters including the father, the mother, the rebel, the hero, and the sage. These archetypes are reflections of our own life, serving as guides, defenders, initiators, and occasionally enemy. They are not only mythological personae or narrative characters. For middle-aged people, archetypes help them to make sense of the changes and difficulties they encounter. For someone at a major turning point, trying to overcome challenges and create a fresh route in life, the hero archetype might be especially relevant. This archetype promotes bravery, tenacity, and adventure, qualities that could be rather important during this phase of life's uncertainty. Conversely, the sage archetype fosters contemplation and introspection, therefore providing knowledge and direction from the depths of the collective consciousness. People who are reaching their 40s and beyond sometimes start to consider their place in the world and search for a greater meaning. The sage can assist people link with their inner knowledge and apply their acquired experience to make more wise and significant decisions. Middle age gives the mother and the father fresh significance as archetypes. These relate not only to raising children, but also to our treatment of others and ourselves within our larger circle of contacts. The care, protection, and encouragement linked with these positions can mirror our treatment of ourselves and our attitude toward our obligations toward others in our community. Jung also spoke about the shadow archetype, which comprises those facets of ourselves we would not want to present to the world. Middle age is a common period when the shadow shows itself as hidden facts, search the light, and the urges to preserve some aspects of our life start to fade. Though it's not a simple procedure, individuation and personal fulfillment depend on facing the shadow. Understanding and balancing our less desired aspects can result in major release and rejuvenation of essential energy. By means of dealing with these archetypes, people might start to detect trends in their life that formerly seemed random or meaningless. Archetypes provide a symbolic language via which conflicts and events could be seen. This interpretive process not only reduces psychological discomfort, but also promotes more personal development by giving direction and clarity. Meanwhile, the collective unconscious serves as a huge ocean from which these archetypes surface. Though we are not personally aware of it, its currents impact our impressions and actions. People can learn to better negotiate these waters as they grow and become more reflective by means of insights from the collective unconscious, therefore guiding their own progress. Investigating these Jungian ideas helps middle-aged individuals to reawaken elements of themselves that might have been overlooked or undervalued. This can be especially effective during a life stage when change usually seems both required and scary. Not only abstract ideas, archetypes, and the collective unconscious are actual components of our psyche that, with awareness and integration, might result in significant self-realization and fulfillment. Finally, Jung's writings provide a road plan for us to negotiate middle life from a rich standpoint. We are active participants in a larger psychological narrative that plays out in the theater of our own unconscious, not just victims of chance or the results of past choices. Examining and working with our archetypes and digging into the collective unconscious can help us to open new aspects of ourselves and start the second half of life not just with more awareness, but also with a fresh enthusiasm for living, really. According to Carl Jung, midlife is a time of major psychological and emotional challenges in addition to contemplation and assessment. We find ourselves at a life crossroads, where concerns about who we are and what we really want from life become more pressing and challenging to ignore as we approach or beyond our 40s. Often marked by a yearning for authenticity and fulfillment, this time can provide a set of special difficulties that, although frightening, can provide chances for great development and change. Managing the so-called midlife crisis is one of the toughest obstacles of this stage. Though most people view the midlife crisis as related to stereotypes such as purchasing a sports vehicle or significantly altering one's way of life, the crisis is really a deep sense of discontent or doubt of life decisions taken up to that time. It's about a thorough reassessment of what truly counts, not only about regretting missed chances. This time can be the impetus for major transformation in which individuals choose to break or start relationships, quit unhappy employment, or pick up new pursuits, more faithfully reflecting their interests and aspirations. Midlife brings more emphasis on both personal and professional relevance as well. One could find an increasing need to engage in activities not only fulfilling but also leaving a legacy. What mark do I want to leave on the world starts to become more pressing. This difficulty closely relates to Jung's individuation, since it motivates the person to pursue a more real expression of their identity and capacity. People at this stage of life often start completely different careers, or volunteer in social or community issues in order to make sense of their combined experiences and abilities. Emotionally, midlife might bring more consciousness of death. Health can start to fade, or friends or relatives could be gone. These encounters can inspire contemplation on mortality and aging, which would then cause one to reevaluate their own goals and ideals. Though it can be a depressing recap, this awareness of death usually serves as a sobering reminder of what really counts in life. Living completely and with intention is important. The encounter with Jung's shadow, those aspects of ourselves we have rejected or ignored, becomes more intense midlife. Desires or traits hidden in childhood for fear of rejection or the urge to conform may arise and demand to be recognized and included into the whole personality. Although it might be uncomfortable, this process of reconciling one's secret or rejected sides of oneself is essential for attaining authenticity and wholeness. Furthermore, this period marks major shifts in the difficulty of relationships. Children who grow up and leave their house may pose issues with duties and identity outside of parenting. As dynamics alter over time, partner relationships may need revitalization. New friendships may develop while others fade, mirroring the internal changes and fresh paths the person's life is on. Navigating these difficulties successfully calls for increasing self-awareness and resilience. The required space to digest and understand these shifts can come from meditation, therapy, spiritual retreats, or just time set for introspection and self-care. Adopting a proactive attitude to personal development, that is, learning new skills or spending time on neglected passions, can also help the mind and soul to be revived. At last, it is important to understand that these difficulties are bridges to more life fulfillment and satisfaction rather than only hurdles. Every obstacle surmounted in midlife not only increases our wisdom and fortitude, but also helps us to become closer to the person we hope to be. In this view, midlife, with all its challenges and rewards, can really be seen not as a crisis but rather as a period of climax and rejuvenation. Visionary of 20th century psychology Carl Jung highlighted that every one of us has a complex internal narrative made of dreams, struggles, and transformations, thereby opening doors to the depths of the human being. As we enter midlife, these features become increasingly noticeable, and the tales of individuation that surface can be as unique and significant as the individuals themselves. Examining actual stories of individuation not only humanizes Jung's theory, but also offers a mirror through which we may view our own paths and difficulties reflected. Think of Anna, a 45-year-old marketing executive whose work life was at its zenith, but who felt personally unhappy and cut off from her own hobbies. Anna started exploring her creativity, something she had neglected for her work, after visiting a self-discovery retreat. Anna went back to painting, a hobby she liked in her early years, and found a hidden aspect of herself. Her artistic side not only improved her personal life, but also changed her professional approach, which resulted in the discovery of a company dedicated on creative marketing techniques reflecting authenticity and personal expression. Then there is Marcos, a 50-year-old doctor whose life changed dramatically after a health crisis. Being near death made Marcos reevaluate his attitude to life and medicine. In his personal life as well as his professional life, he resolved to give preventive medicine and health more of his attention. He also started to cherish times with his family and friends more, giving relationships over career aspirations first priority. Marcos's individuation shows how great development and a redefining of life's meaning can result from personal hardships. Alternatively, think of Elena, a literature teacher who, upon turning 40, found the nest empty when her kids left house. She felt first loneliness, but finally it inspired her to write a novel, something she had always wanted to do but never had the time for. Through her characters, writing not only filled the vacuum left by her children, but also let her investigate and process many of her own events and feelings. Her book's successful release was evidence of her own development and how individuation may show up as self-expression and creativity. Every one of these narratives highlights several aspects of Jung's individuation theory. Anna, Marcos, and Elena discovered means to reconnect elements of their personality and refocus their life toward a more intense feeling of fulfillment and direction. These stories not only demonstrate the adaptability of individuation, but also indicate how often chances for personal development manifest themselves via the demands and changes of life. Furthermore, these tales capture the core of Jungian theory, the shadow. Every one of these people confronted aspects of themselves they would have liked to overlook or avoid, but by facing and working with these facets, individuals not only attained more authenticity in their life, but also helped a process of metamorphosis to influence all spheres of their existence. Individuation is neither a straightforward or simple process. It takes bravery to face the unknown inside oneself and the readiness to undertake sometimes difficult or demanding changes. But as these tales reveal, the outcomes can be rather enriching, providing fresh vitality and a more whole and complete view of life. For people in midlife, these stories of individuation provide inspiration as well as consolation. They show that even although the road to self-realization may be paved with questions, it also offers chances for rediscovery and reinventions. Sharing these events helps us to not only improve our awareness of others and ourselves, but also increase our ability to meet obstacles with hope and resiliency. All told, the tales of individuation are evidence of the ability of the human soul to change, adapt, and finally flourish. Learning from them can help us to find the way to negotiate our own midlife with more wisdom and grace, realizing that every difficulty is a chance to advance farther on the interesting road towards the actual self.